Okay, back at it again today, and another, high energy practice. And they love to compete, and they were competing at the start. They were competing at the finish, and it was fun to see the jaw jacking going on when they were competing back and forth with each other. Looking forward to another opportunity to get in front of the home fans. Play in the home stadium. Our guys are excited about that. They started talking about that right off the bat this morning. Denzel, he's still in the protocol. Haven't got anything else different with him. And then Larry's making progress, and I'll know a little bit more about him by the end of the day, probably. Questions?
I'm just curious. Why do you practice indoors when you're going to be playing outside?
I was waiting for that one. You'll love this, is that the weather is supposed to be pretty decent this weekend. And if it had some type of a slickness going on, but as soon as we went out there and the field was slick, and so I'm not going to jeopardize an injury or whatever. We'll be out there tomorrow and Friday and everything, but it's not something that you have to do every day. It's about making sure our guys are executing and practicing, and can, for whatever reason, is there a way to minimize some of the guys that are having the long strides and the slides and being on the ground. And when one guy goes down on the ground, especially in practice situations, there's a domino effect. Other guys get hurt when they start falling over each other. So went inside today just because of how slick it was, and we'll see about getting back out in the next couple of days.
What is it you're going to find out about Larry that you haven't found out already?
Just the big thing is that just waiting for the final little thing with the doctors, and what he's talking to with them and what we are, and then we'll be off and running, because he's a tough dude. Larry's tough.
Mitchell back in game action this weekend. How important is it to have him back and
Who?
especially given Terrence Mitchell?
Yes, good. Yeah, Terrence practiced, and he practiced well today, and he's taken the next step, and we'll see as it goes day by day by day. And it's one of those things where it's hard for people to understand this, but you just don't all of a sudden be out that long and just all of a sudden think you can step back in. It's not that easy in the National Football League. So that's why we have done this week by week by week thing. So lots of times, and I've been guilty of this before earlier in my career, is that when you throw them back in a hurry, all of a sudden there's a soft tissue injury. All of a sudden there's a pull or a strain. All of a sudden, because of the speed, we try to do everything we can in rehab to make it realistic, but until you get out there competing, there's nothing realistic until change of directions and stuff. And he's done very well. He had a good day today. So, just knock on wood, let him go day by day by day and see how he gets to the weekend.
He could go in and start right away on
He
Sunday.
could come in and play. Yeah, he could come in and play, so we'll see, But again, we'll wait and see how it goes throughout the rest of the week. This was really the first active, really get after it. The last 2 weeks we've been wanting to make sure we weren't setting him back.
Given Denzel Ward being in the concussion protocol, is it even more important to kind of?
We've done a really good job with guys bouncing around, and we do believe strongly in our next man up. So we've been already doing those type of things anyway. So, it's the next guy's got to get ready to go.
How have you seen Greg Joseph come along? He had, it's been a wild year for him. How's he handling things? The kicker.
You know what? I will tell you this, is that he has improved. He really has. I thought he had one of his best weeks last week. And again, I go back to, coaching kickers and punters a long time ago too. And it's a step-by-step process with that, solid today. But again, until you get into the real fire of games, those are the things where confidence, builds from the real fire of games.
Cam and Deshaun, different as runners, and defending them, what do you have to do differently?
Both very athletic, both very instinctive, things that you as a coach can't coach, things that they're able to do. Cam's extremely powerful. I've already told the guys, I was in that division when he was a rookie and have seen him grow from his rookie years. I was in that division. And the hard thing when I said it today, or said it Monday in the meeting room, is that I said he's bigger than Miles. And people say, what? And I said, there it is. There's your quarterback right here, Myles Garrett. That's the kind of framework you're looking at here. And they all started smiling once they started watching the film on him again, some of the young guys that hadn't had a chance to play against him. He's grown and taken very good steps year by year by year. I think Norv's done a really good job with the things that they're doing with him. And then Deshaun has all those same athletic things that Cam has, and he has blistering speed too. So we have our work cut out for us. It's back-to-back games with that kind of a quarterback, but more powerful in the pocket. And when you're taking a look at getting him down in the pocket, it's a grown man now. It's not a small quarterback.
What is he doing well to have his best year statistically in some of the major categories?
He's done a very good job of buying into what the quick releases. He hasn't held the ball as long as he was earlier in his career. He's done a very good job of recognizing, defining coverage, and getting the ball out of his hands and making good plays that way. He really has. And he has taken the obvious read more times than not instead of forcing the ball. And that's what happens when you grow as a quarterback, and he has.
What happened last week that he had 4 interceptions?
Some of the, there were some similarities when I looked on film. One of those things where he forced a few balls, and and give Tampa credit a couple of times. They came out of nowhere and undercut a couple of routes, but he forced a couple of throws, and we fought through some of the same things last week. It's never easy as a quarterback in our league, but he's had an unbelievable year until last week. He had a couple of things like that.
How do you like he runs the ball, he leads him with 80 catches? How do you defend a guy like that?
I was talking, walking in here today, that I just shake my head, the circle of life. I still think I'm pretty young, and I'm coaching against his dad back in the 90s, and the early 2000s, and then all of a sudden now here's the son coming up. And I also, see some of the similarities, as a route catcher, as a back. His dad was a receiver, but he has very good hands. They're doing a really good job of creating the space and putting him in different positions and trying to motion and shift and trick some things around to get him the opportunity to have the balls in space. And one of the things that was an unbelievable statistic, I don't know if you guys have heard that or seen it yet, but I was pounding in, he's played 97.1% of the plays this year. Wow. And, from a tough physical position of the running back, but they've done a good job of also getting him in the space situations too, so he doesn't take the bang, up inside as much as maybe some of the other traditional running backs. But he's a really good football player. He's a really good instinctive football player, both as a runner and a catcher.
Better receiver.
Say it again.
Is he a better runner or better receiver?
I think he's better at both. I think I can't tell the difference, in that respect. And here's about this: when he's a receiver, boy, he looks good running it. Look at all the yards after catch. Go back and take a look at those stats on him. They're phenomenal. That once he catches the ball, how many yards he gets after the catch. So good coaches, good systems, that's what they do, is they create those situations for those type of running backs and those type of receivers. When you have those type of guys, where you get it to them as fast as you can in space and let them go. And he does a really good job with that.
So many people thought he'd be such a good pro. Were you surprised at all? I don't know how closely you followed.
No, I thought he was going to be really good, but again, I didn't do all the extensive study on him. But I do think he's awakened. He's woke up a lot of people. People have opened their eyes on. Maybe I better go back and think about that again.
You've seen they've taken Cam out twice to throw Hail Mary passes. He's kind of dinking and dunking a lot. Do you see that his shoulder hurting him at all?
Every once in a while you see that, but then I see him cut loose with one, when he's in the pocket. So, I don't know if it's something on a deep ball thing that they think maybe they have a guy that can really wing it and get it down there further. I've been on staffs like that before where our offense have done some things like that. But I will tell you this, is that every once in a while when I think maybe his shoulder is sore, I see him just absolutely throw it lights out right down the middle of the field stick it in some tight windows the way he has always been able to do that. And I think he's done very well. I think Norv's done a very good job with him.
What kind of challenge is it for Baker to go up against a defense led by Luke Kuechly, who's seen a lot?
Yeah, you're not going to fool those kinds of guys, and I would have loved to have the opportunity to coach him, many years ago. Didn't fall right in the draft, and did a lot of work on him. And there's a lot of similarities from a mental standpoint of what we were talking about with Shobes and what you see with Keek and what he's able to do and on the check systems and understanding, the little nuances of offensive concepts and stuff. He's able and not afraid to abort the defensive call or his responsibility because he understands the offensive concept. Those are things that pose problems. Baker's been studying a bunch, and we've all talked about those kind of things with him and some of the other guys there too. It'll be a good competition.
Couple more. Can you say why Duke Johnson didn't practice other than what's
Personal. He's excused. He is excused, and but it's a personal. He'll be fine. Yeah, hopefully he will.
Greg, your run defense, we talked about at the end of last week, but then Houston had a good day running the ball. What issues do you have there?
A couple of things about that is that we played so strong, except for a couple of them popped. A couple of place pops, which kind of skews the statistics on that right there. But they were a good run defense. And one of the things that you do also is when you're concerned about the effective mobility of the quarterback, it'll open up a couple of seams that way. We're going to have those same issues this week.
Greg, I know you said the other day that you have zero concern about Baker and the turnovers. But what's your message in this week?
If I have to, and this is good. At this level, at this time in his life, if there has to be a super message, it's the wrong guy, and that's not. And it never was on the sideline with him. With those mistakes, he accepts responsibility and gets on to the next play. And I've been around those kind of people too, but not just at the quarterback position, but a lot of times at the corner position. A corner will make a mistake, and for the next 4 or 5 plays, he's just awful. You got to get on to the next play. Those are what really good players do, and he has that in him. He did that day, and today, he brought a smile, as he was getting everybody, fired up out there today on lots of different competition type things, and so no worries at all.
You're facing a team with a running quarterback. From your standpoint as a defensive coordinator, can you kind of put some science to it and know what all he's going to do? Or is it
those two things is that in their run game, the top 2 guys in their run game, obviously, are Cam and McCaffrey, and both of those things that you have to identify at the point of attack. You identify by the formations that they're creating and understanding the responsibility for both of them. And those are things that schematically that you have to have ready to roll, and we do.
Is it annoying as a defensive coordinator to prepare for a running quarterback?
That big. I'd rather him not be as big as him. And I have a lot of respect for him. I really do. And he's a really good football player. But, we're going to have to make sure that we stay on our scheme responsibility. And then you can be right on it and then be overpowered because that's how big he is. He can break a tackle.